Okay, well, it is 10 o'clock. We're going to go ahead and get things started here. Good morning, everyone, and thank you for taking time out of your busy schedules to join us for this meeting. My name is Justin Reifert. I'm the VP of Senior Health Sales here at Premier Marketing, and I'm excited to introduce you to George Dippel, President of Deft Research. George, thank you for joining us here today, and we're excited to hear more about the industry trends and that you and your team have compiled and to help us guide us through our sales for the 2024 selling season.
Yeah, Justin, I'm happy to be here and I'm excited to share those trends with you as well. So I'll just echo what Justin said. Thank you all so much for taking time out of your busy days. I know how busy it's going to get another month from now. And my goal for today's session is to share with you some insights that might help you better plan and prepare to have the most effective AEP. My company, Deft Research, is a marketing research firm, and all we do at Deft is we study the health insurance consumer. And we recently surveyed seniors to try to understand what they plan to do this upcoming fall. We wanted to understand what benefits have worked for them this year, what services have worked for them, and where things fell short. And the thinking is, if we can understand what went well and what didn't in the summer, well, then we can share those insights with folks like you and better prepare you to have the most successful AEP as possible. So sit back and enjoy some of these slides from our most recently published AEP Gut Check Study. Now, this study, if you look on the left side, is one of 9 different market research studies that we're going to produce this year for the Medicare space. Each one of those bullets is another study, and most of the carriers that you guys sell for see this same data. Now, most of the research that we share with the carriers has to do with product design. They'll use our data to help design their new MA or MedSup products, or maybe marketing. But this 7th bullet out of 9, this 7th study out of 9, Gut Check, it's all about sales and distribution. This study is for folks like you. Now in the middle, we also have ACA insights to help folks get ready for the OEP. And on the right, at Deft, we are not just a syndicated data company, we are also a full custom company. So what did we do in our Gut Check study? Real quick, just a note on methods. This was a survey study, a quantitative survey. So we had a bunch of seniors, 2,400 of them to be exact, who filled out our survey about the things that went well so far through the midpoint of the year and things that didn't, and their plans for what they expect to do this fall, as well as what makes for the ideal agent experience. Now, those 2,400 folks that we surveyed, seniors, you can see 700 plus had a MedSup plan, double that had a Medicare Advantage plan, and we did have some folks in this study who are on original Medicare only. Basically, we want to see if these folks with just Part A, Part B coverage have intention of this fall of maybe moving out of that, possibly into a $0 MA. The last point I want to make before we get into the data itself is when we were in the field, that second bullet point tells us we collected these responses from seniors the last week or so of June, literally the halfway point in the year. Now, we did that intentionally because, well, we want seniors to have a chance to use their products the first 4 or 5 months. Got to figure out what worked and what didn't. But we also want to make sure we got this data out to folks like you so that you can act on it, so that you can speak to and empathize with them on the elements of their coverage that they need help with the most. Now, our first slide in this study is based on a very simple question that we love to ask at Deft Research. That question is on a scale of 0 to 10, and it basically is, tell us how likely you are to renew your coverage this fall. Someone who answers this question in Medicare Advantage, well, I'm a 9 or a 10. That just means they absolutely to renew their coverage this fall. We're going to take anyone who scored a 9 and 10. We're going to put them in that blue color. We're going to call them loyal, because at the halfway point, there's nothing indicating that these folks want to quit their coverage or quit their agent. Now, we also look at the folks who score 0 to 6. They're basically saying, my loyalty to my company, my carrier, my product, my agent, it's anything but guaranteed. That's the red section, at risk. Now, you'll notice at the top of this chart, we've been doing this gut check study for 4 years, and we've never seen a greater percentage of MA members at risk of attrition, at risk of switching this fall. That 15% number is meaningfully higher than last year's 12%, meaningfully higher than a few years ago's 12% when COVID hit. And if we look at the loyal number, 60%, well, that's good. 60% of folks are indicating I want to renew, but that number's down from last year's 64, and the year before that 68, and the year before that 67. The bottom line for Medicare Advantage is, right now, the bond between consumer and carrier has never been so weak. Now, this doesn't mean that switching is going to go through the roof. Switching is going to be determined by what? ANOX? When the senior sees in their annual notice of change that their copays are going up, or their network is different, or their supplemental benefits are degraded. That's going to cause switching, as will new products and new marketing. But what this tells us is seniors are going to have their eyes peeled. They're going to have their ears perked up. They want to see and hear about anything that is better. Right now, we would say we can't predict switching, but we can say more seniors have an itch to switch this year than we've seen in the past in MA. And it's somewhat similar for MedSup. If we look at the last 4 years of MedSup, that middle set of bars, we've been bouncing between 12 or 13% of consumers at risk of switching as we head into the AEP. So not really any different. What is different is what we see in that loyal number. This year, 61% of MedSup folks saying I'm going to be loyal, about the same as last year's 60. But both of those are lower than what we've seen the 2 previous years. And we all know what's happened these 2 previous years of MedSup. We've seen MedSup members switch into MA. Now, for original Medicare only folks, you can see they are at risk of switching. This is low-hanging fruit. You find folks on original Medicare only, they really aren't comfortable with their coverage. They want to see more. But the bottom line on this slide is this. We can never predict switching at depth, but we can say the bond between consumer and their private insurance product is weaker than we have seen before. Now, we can look at this as a glass half empty or glass half full. Glass half empty, we're going to have to spend more time as agents reassuring our current book of business this fall. They're a little bit shakier than they've been in the past. But we can also look at this as glass half full. More consumers this fall are going to be looking for advice from folks like you. Now, this is our first glance into what we think is going to be an active fall. We're going to confirm it now. In this second slide, pardon my cough, we took that first question, do you plan to renew? We added a second question, does your current plan fit you like a glove? And a third question, how confident are you have the best coverage? Based on how folks answered those 3 questions, we put them into one of these 4 senior segments that you see on the right. Now, 2 of them have the word loyal in them, right? Loyal and happy, loyal but indifferent. Well, what's a loyal and happy senior? This is a senior that says, I love my plan. It fits me like a glove, and I'm confident I'm in the best plan. Let's say about 60% of MA members, about 70% of MedSup members, they're happy as a plan. Now, loyal but indifferent, these are folks who say, I really love my coverage. I just don't think there's anything any better out there. Both combined, let's say 2/3 of MA members are telling us we're going to be loyal in this second set of questions, and 3/4 of MedSup. But now the other 2 segments tell us about 1/4 of MA folks are what we call satisfied but discerning. All that means is my plan is so-so, and I am going to keep my eyes out. If I hear or see better, look out. And then, of course, buyer's remorse. We know what buyer's remorse is. We've all had that. These are our 4 senior segments, but what I want to show you is how this is changing over time with Medicare Advantage. Take a look at this chart. We have 3 points in time. We have March of 2022, March of 2023, and then this study in June of 2023. If you look at that dotted purple line at the top, it tells us 18 months ago, March of 2022, 71% of seniors with Medicare Advantage, they were loyal and happy. I love my product. I'm going to renew my product. It fits me like a glove, and I'm confident I have the best product. When we repeated this, a year later, that 71 dropped to 65%. And then when we did it just 3 months later for this study, dropped again to 61 points. We've lost 10 percentage points in a year and a half of all those seniors in MA saying, I love my product, I'm gonna renew, I'm happy, here's the plan, it's my love. Loyalty in MA is starting to deteriorate rather quickly. This is our second look that tells us it ought to be an active fall. And our third look that tells us, once again, the same thing. When we just ask seniors directly, whether you have Medicare Advantage or MedSup or just original Medicare, it's June. Do you already have going to look for better coverage this fall? June did. They said, I'm very, or I'm extremely likely to shop for new coverage. And remember, this is before any of them saw any direct mail, got telesales calls from agents, went to seminars, looked up online new products, or saw ANOCs that surprised them. Last year, 43% of seniors were active shoppers or switchers in the AEP. Our best guess at Deft is, chances are better than not, we will have an even more active AEP this fall. Again, we can't predict switching at Deft, but what we can say is the ingredients are there. More seniors are more frustrated with their coverage. Expect greater opportunities this fall. Now, why are seniors frustrated? Well, things haven't gone perfectly with their Medicare Advantage coverage so far this year. We got a lot going on this slide, but if you take a look at the top left, that purple bar, it tells us through June, 48% of seniors with Medicare Advantage said, you know what, I've had a problem with my coverage. I've had some sort of a hiccup, some sort of an issue has popped up. That's almost half of all seniors in MA. And again, it's only June. If we repeated this study in July, you know that 48% number is now a majority, over 50. Now, what has gone wrong? Well, the right side tells us what has gone wrong. These are all the issues that seniors in Medicare Advantage have felt through June. And what you see on this chart tells us these are the topics that we have to be prepared to talk about. These are the pain points that are top of mind for seniors. Now you'll notice I have some of these highlighted with little boxes around them, some red, some gray. Let's take a look at the two in the red, starting with that 9% that's highlighted at the bottom. What's this say? It tells us that 9% of seniors in Medicare Advantage have had a problem this year with doctors and networks. Now, to be clear, Medicare Advantage means you have networks, and there will be issues with doctors and networks, but that's a relatively low number. Why? As agents, we've done a great job every year helping our prospects and our current members make sure that we get doctor and doctor lookup nailed for all their PCPs as well as specialists. We have said for years at Deft, when you think of all the great things that an agent or broker can do to support seniors, there's some things that you just got to nail. There's some things you absolutely have to be proficient in. And number one, the number one pillar of proficiency as an agent, of course, is every customer, every year, every time, doctors. Make sure we get doctors right. If we do that, we're servicing our seniors the best we can. So, pillar of proficiency number one, pardon me, doctors and network. Pillar of proficiency number two, also in red, drug coverage. Now, this is an important one. Maybe some of you have heard that there was this Inflation Reduction Act passed last December of 2022. Big legislation that got passed. And in it, they changed some of the rules for prescription drug plans. What happened is they got rid of that 5% coinsurance that seniors have to pay in the catastrophic phase of coverage. Well, what does that mean? If you have customers who have more comprehensive drug coverage, there's a better chance they might see changes in premium this year. They might see changes in deductible. They might see up-tiering of drugs. Lots of changes could happen. So what does this tell us? Just like the pillar of proficiency number one is you've got to every single year help your customers on doctor and make sure all those doctors are networked. It's more important than ever that you do the same thing with drugs. Even if Mrs. Jones has the same 2 or 3 medications she's had for 4 or 5 years. Spend the time with Mrs. Jones to go over them. She could see changes. And if she didn't see these changes coming come January, Mrs. Jones is at risk of switching in the OEP. Pillar proficiency number 1, we have to nail this year. Doctors, just like always. Pillar proficiency number 2, we got to nail. Drugs, more important than ever because the changes due to the Inflation Reduction Act. But notice these aren't the biggest issues that MA seniors are having. The biggest issues they're having are what? Flex card frustration. This is now pillar of proficiency number 3. Helping seniors understand those flex cards. Now, to be clear, seniors love flex cards. Who doesn't want to get a card with dollars on it? They love it. It's why MA continues to grow, but it's the number 1 reported problem that folks have with MA. It leads all complaints to CMS. Fewer services than I thought, smaller allowances than I thought. If we take a look on this chart, what were the problems as a senior that you had with your flex card? Take a look at the top 2. This is what we need to be proficient in as an agent. Helping folks understand all the allowances for different services and where you can use them. Let's talk about that top one, unexpected limits on allowances. As agents, we know when we sell MA, small number sell and big number sell. Well, what do I mean by that? Small number sell, 0 premium, that's a small number and that sells. 0 PCP copay, that sells. 0 tier 1, tier 2 medications, that sells. Small numbers sell MA, but so do the big numbers. When we talk about a $2,000 flex card or $3,000 flex card or $1,500 flex card, big numbers sell as well. The problem is, if we have a $1,500 flex card, and that's all we talk about, and we don't explain to Mrs. Jones, yeah, it's a $1,500 flex card. Let me help you understand that 500 of that goes to dental, and another 500 of that goes to vision, and another 500 of that goes to hearing. If all we do is talk about that big number and not the smaller purses that add up to that big number, then what's Mrs. Jones going to do in January? She's going to try to use that $1,500 for a dental implant and realize she only has $500 of coverage. This can also lead to rapid disenrollments in the first 90 days. So, point number 1 on flex cards. They're becoming more and more complicated. We have to be smarter on flex cards. We have to understand them inside and out and don't fall to the temptation of just talking about the total allowance if that total allowance is made up of smaller purses. Number 2, use at locations I want. This is particularly true when we think about our D-SNP sales. Dual eligible consumers. Let's say I'm a D-SNP member and I was attracted to this coverage because it had an $1,800 food card. Well, that's really important to me because I struggle with food security. And if I have an $1,800 food card, you better believe I'm excited about that as a dual eligible. But if I walk out of my apartment and I can't use that food card at the grocery store across the street, and instead I got to go 6 miles away and I don't have reliable transportation, that $1,800 might as well be 0. I'm a D-SNP consumer. I can and I will switch whenever I want to, every quarter. And if I don't understand the retail locations, the network element of retail locations, that's why I switch. And D-SNP consumers switch at twice the rate of others. When we're selling D-SNP, we also have to understand network. No, not doctor network, not pharmacy network. We have to understand the local grocery network where that food card works and where it doesn't. If we don't, look out. We're going to have more OEP disenrollments. Now, one point else I want to make is when we look at those folks who are at risk of attrition, right? As we said, 15% of folks we believe are at risk of quitting this year, right? Last year was 12%. But look at these percentages on the right. What percent of folks plan to quit their plan if they had a problem with any of these areas? Now, some of these we understand. Hey, my doctor's not in network. my at-risk percentage is going to be a lot higher than 15%. Okay, if I had drug coverage issues, this drug that I was prescribed isn't covered and I never knew, greater chance I'm going to quit my plan than just 15%. It goes up to 30-something. But look at the two in red. Have a claim denial, a denial issue. Okay, 10% of Medicare Advantage members this year had a claim denial. What does that tell us? We also need to be smart about these. Claim denials are likely to be more common going forward because the government is starting to reduce the amount of money it's paying to these carriers. So they may tighten up medical management. We have to understand that Medicare Advantage means medical management. And we have to be able to explain to our customers that Medicare Advantage has a lot of goods, a lot of pros. Pro number one, you're going to get low cost coverage. It's going to be efficient because of medical management. You get all these dollars for supplemental benefits. You get low copays for the doctor and drug. It's efficient. It's also effective. The medical management you have, it's based on what's in the scientific literature, evidence-based medicine. What the data says is the best path to health for you as a senior. But that path may be different than what you or your doctor initially wants. We want to get ahead of this and explain this to our customers. Otherwise, they're going to hear more about claim denials. And if we take a look at the top left, 7% of Medicare eligibles today say there's a specific brand of health insurance and consider because I know someone who had a claim denial. If you look at the right, if I know someone who has a claim denial, look, I'm more at risk of switching. I'm more likely to have buyer's remorse. Our point is this: as the market is clearly shifting, as MedSup is kind of in neutral, maybe losing a little bit, and more sales are going to MA, let's just make sure we help these seniors understand. Medicare Advantage is great. There is medical management. You do not have medical management in MedSup. No networks. No one's going to tell your doctor how to prescribe medications or treatment for you. In Medicare Advantage, you will have that. But because you have that, it gets you efficient and effective care based on the scientific literature and low cost. But the pathway to the treatment may be a little bit different than your physician initially wants. If we get ahead of this, we can help make sure we're putting folks in the right coverage, either MA or MedSup. Now, that's also, yes, please.
Sorry to cut you off. Just 1 second here. Your panel on the side of your screen there on your it's kind of blocking off a little bit of the, can you just hit that little orange arrow for us, please? Thank you. That's perfect. Sorry to interrupt.
Man. Hey, maybe we should just start back from the first slide. No, sorry about that. A little bit of user error. What can I say? I'm getting old. All right. Now let's take a look at what we think folks are excited about for this year, right? We talked about some of the issues that popped up, right? Now we went to all these seniors and said, okay, what benefits are you already thinking that you should look into for next year? Now, when you ask seniors what benefits they think they ought to look into for next year, it's kind of like asking someone who's going to go buy a new car, hey, what features should you pay attention to? And you might say, well, I'm going to look at warranty and I'm going to look at mileage and I'm going to look at this and that and the other thing, right? Do people always buy logically or do they buy emotionally? More on that in a second. But here is what seniors are saying. I'm logically thinking that I ought to pay attention to this fall. All kinds of stuff on this chart. What do we see at the very top? Dental and vision. Okay, to be clear, when we survey folks who are 64, what are the two most important benefits you want to hear about from your agent? It's going to be dental and vision. Now, when we look at why people switch coverage in the fall AEP, it's not vision, it's dental, as well as some other elements. So dental is no surprise where it is. What else do we see there? Part B givebacks. I gotta admit, I was a little surprised to see that 37% of seniors said they plan to look at a Part B giveback benefit. Now, all kinds of things on here, but this ought to give you a sense as to an agent, what's top of mind for seniors as they head into this fall. But again, we're asking them logically, what do you expect to look into? Not emotionally, which of these benefits looks the most appealing. Well, that's what we asked in this next question. What's the one benefit out of this whole list that you'll be most fired up to have come 1/1 of 2024? Now we see it isn't dental A and vision B, it's Part B Give Back 1. Okay, 18% of seniors said this will be the one benefit I'll be most fired up to have. Now, Part B Give Backs, there are arguments on either side, good or bad. Good in the sense it gives seniors more cash to their Social Security check. Bad in the sense that those dollars ought to be given to providers to have a better provider network or lower drug costs or lower deductibles. There are two arguments on either side of these. We try to stay out of it. But what we can tell you is there's a lot of interest in these still. If you look at that top paragraph that we have up top, or subheadline, it tells you that 16% of all the Medicare Advantage plan designs that exist today offer a give back. Now, most of those are MA only for veterans, but more and more are MAPD. And last year, when we look at the results of the AEP last year, on 1/1/2023, 9% of all seniors in Medicare Advantage were in a give back plan, 9%. When we looked at that number again, when this study came out this summer, that 9% had grown to 9.5% of all seniors in MA are in a give back plan. Well, how the heck does that happen? It's not like we had new designs hit the market in March or April or May. It's just once a year for 1/1. We didn't have any new plans come out with more give backs. We had more age-ins come into Medicare. And all that tells you is the give back phenomenon we've seen these last 3 years, age-ins, 64, 65-year-olds, they're more in favor of give backs than older seniors who we already service. Bottom line, there is more demand for give backs than we have supply in terms of Medicare Advantage designs. And just like last year, give backs will be a big deal when it comes to fall sales. Now notice on that gray box on the right, 18% of seniors say the number one benefit I want is a give back. When we isolate just folks in Medicare Advantage, it's 22%. And even 12% of Med Sup folks say the benefit they want most is a give back benefit. And they can't even have those unless, of course, they move to MA. Now we're going to switch gears and talk a little bit about the agent and what exactly seniors think about their agent. Now in this chart, we're asking on the left, I'm a senior, I've worked with Agent Justin in the past. Well, how did I meet up with Agent Justin? Did I meet him face-to-face, over the phone, email, etc.? And on the right, the next time I work with Agent Justin, how would I like to meet him? Face-to-face, over phone, etc. So let's take a look at the right. Going forward, how do I want to meet with an agent? Notice it's more likely face-to-face than over the telephone. The older the senior is, so in red, 75 plus, the more likely they want to meet with Agent Justin face-to-face. The younger I am, well, the more likely as a senior I have more time pressure, and therefore I want to work over the phone. But in either case, face-to-face versus phone, face-to-face is still ahead. Now, interestingly, look at video chat, Skype or Zoom. Isn't that good to see? Seniors don't want to do sales meetings with agents over Zoom. We were all forced to do that back in 2020. That didn't work well for the agent. That didn't work well for the senior. And the best thing is no senior really wants to enroll via Skype or Zoom. It's either phone or face-to-face. Now, the other thing I want to point out on this slide is that gray text box. Look at that last sentence there. Seniors who felt their agent spent enough time with them were more loyal, 98% loyal. Now that's always the rub as an agent, right? Do I spend more time servicing my current customers or do I spend more time prospecting new customers? We got to find that right balance. What this is saying though, is if I spend the time, pardon me, let's say 10/14 to 12/7, servicing my current customers, I'm rewarded with their loyalty, that AEP. And I can spend more time building my business up in the SEP and the lock-in. Again, pardon me, guys. This next slide gets into what I feel about working with Agent Justin. All right, so on the left side in dark green, these are seniors that say, I strongly agree that I feel this way working with Agent Justin. And on the light green, no, I don't agree with this at all. Let's look at the bottom two. This is what seniors say, I don't agree with this. I don't agree that Agent Justin was just too connected to one or two carriers. I don't agree that Agent Justin was just interested in making a sale, not getting it right, putting me in the right plan. No, what do seniors agree with? These are the top two. I agree. Justin considered all of my healthcare needs when presenting with me with options. And I agree Justin had my best interest in heart. Seniors value the services that their agents provide them. Now that middle one is interesting. I'm going to touch on that in just a second, but I want to skip to the right side first. Okay, I'm a senior. I sat down, I worked with Agent Justin. We talked about A and B and C and D, and Agent Justin recommended C. Okay, great. Well, after Agent Justin recommended product C, did you get a second opinion? Almost a third of seniors go behind Agent Justin's back and get a second opinion. Now, whether they're agent or broker, they might call their healthcare provider, but they're likely to call a family member or friend. And this is where it gets dicey. If I go to my neighbor Joe and I say, look, I met with my agent, we talked about A and B and C and D. Agent recommends C. Hey, Joe, what do you think about C? Well, Joe is not an expert in Medicare at all. So what's he going to say? Is he going to say, yeah, you should buy product C because they have the lowest tier 3 coinsurance? Of course not. He might say, well, I've heard about product C. Isn't that the one that puts money in your Social Security check or something like that? So he might talk about supplemental benefits or flex cards or givebacks. That's about it on the positive. Or he might talk about the negative. Oh, Justin recommended C to you? No. You remember our buddy Bob? Bob had C. And when Bob had cancer, C wouldn't pay for his bone scan. This gets into claim denials and medical management. It's a reason why we have to get in front of this with our customers and explain to them that Medicare Advantage means you will have medical management. They're going to hear about claim denials. Are we explaining to them why medical management could be more efficient and effective care in the long run? Now, back to the left side of that middle bar. Do you agree or disagree that Agent Justin presented a whole bunch of plans from a whole bunch of health insurers? Agent Justin talked about HMO and Plan G and PPO and high deductible G and this carrier and that carrier. He talked about everything that was out there. 42% say, yeah, he did. 33%, no, he slotted me into one. Is one better or worse? Well, when we look back on that loyalty question, remember this one? Do you plan to renew? Are you at risk of quitting? The bottom bar says, when I agree that Agent Justin, he talked about HMO and Plan G and PPO and cost plans and high deductible G and N and all this stuff and all these brands. On the bottom, when I agree that Agent Justin, he talked to me about everything. Notice, smaller percent of customers are at risk of quitting this fall. On the top, if I say, Agent Justin didn't talk to me about a bunch of different plans from a bunch of different carriers, more consumers are at risk. This is our first slide that tells us seniors are probably better served when we don't just try to put them all in a one med sup with one carrier, or we don't try to put them all with one MA option from one carrier. But when we talk about the whole field, they tend to be more loyal with whatever plan they go into. Now on the left side, I worked with Agent Justin, right? I sat down, we talked about A and B and C and D. On the left side, do you feel as though you have a personal connection with Agent Justin? I was kind of surprised to see that 42% of seniors said, you know, I had an agent enroll me, but I don't have a personal connection. 34% believe I have a personal connection. Well, we know some of those 42 are telesales. I called up Joe Namath, right? Do you have a personal connection with the agent on Joe Namath? No, you don't. Do I have a personal connection with Justin? 34% say I do. Why? Because when I call Justin, he calls me back. You know, he helps me understand all those pillars of proficiency, doctor and drug and my flex card. And he explained the pros and cons of medical management, helped me understand what I was getting into. but I know I have a personal relationship with my agent because I have his business card, I have his name, and he keeps me informed during the course of the year. When we look at that on the right side and we get back to this whole thing, who's loyal, who's going to renew their coverage, who's at risk, who's going to quit? On the far right, if I have a personal relationship, and I strongly agree that I have a personal relationship with Agent Justin, that's where the loyal members are. In the red, if some telesales guy signed me up for coverage, I have no idea who it is, and I definitely don't have a personal relationship, that's where the at-risk members are. When we invest in our prospects and our members our time to build that personal relationship, they do reward us with loyalty. When there is no personal relationship, these are who quit. And you know what else? When we have a personal relationship with Agent Justin, we have earned the right to help all of our prospects and members with more lines of insurance business. Look at the left. I work with Agent Justin. He hooked me up with my MedSup or my MAPD, whatever it might be. And I got a great relationship with him. Awesome. Hey, on the left, did Agent Justin, I understand he hooked you up with your MedSup or MA, but did he also talk to you about dental, vision, hearing, critical illness, cancer, final expense? None of these numbers are close to 100%. Look at cancer at 9%. Basic demographics tell us 40% of all of us on this phone call someday will have a cancer diagnosis. All of us someday are going to pass away. But only 9% of agents selling Medicare are mentioning cancer. 7% final expense. But when we have that personal relationship, we've earned the right to help them with more lines of business. And guess what? Many of these folks wish we would. On the right side now, I work with Agent Justin. We got a great relationship. He really helped me out. No, he did not talk about all these elements, dental, hospital, cancer, final expense. The percentages you see on the right are the percent that say, but I wish Agent Justin had. When we look at all of our customers, this on the right tells us if we're not talking about these other products, maybe 1 out of 6, 1 out of 7 wishes we had. Wishes we had. They want that coverage. We could have better serviced them, and at the same time, we could have done better ourselves. Now, another way to talk about what seniors want in an agent is this question right here. What is your preference? On the bottom, I think this is good news. Only 21% of seniors say, I would rather not work with a broker. That means 80% want to. All right, of the 80% of seniors who want to work with an agent or broker for Medicare, great. Would you rather have a consultative agent? This is an agent that's going to talk about the pros and the cons, pros of MA, pros of PPO, pros of Plan G, high deductible G, cons of PPO, the whole deal, pros and cons of all these different brands? Or would you rather have a direct agent? Hey, I've been doing this for 30 years. I know all the carriers and all these brands. This is the one product that is best for you. It's 10 to 1 more likely seniors want a consultative agent. Consultative agent. It's going to talk about all these plans, all these brands, the whole universe of what's out there. Well, why is that? Here we're looking at seniors who say, yeah, I want a consultative agent who's going to tell me the pros and cons of everything that's out there, who knows all the brands, who knows all the products, who knows MA, who knows MedSup. Not just going to put in a square peg in a round hole. Why do you want a consultative agent? Look at the top 2 bars. This is why. It's because the seniors are testing you. I want a consultative agent who can talk about all these brands and all these products. Why? Because I want to know my agent has put the work in to make sure I have the best option. And when you can talk about HMO and PPO and Plan G and Plan N and Mutual of Omaha and United and Blue Cross and everybody, you know your stuff. Number 2, when I hear you talk about the details of all these different brands and products, it tells me you know what you're talking about. Right? We might have a wealth of knowledge and we might know all these products, but if we come across as just trying to slot our customers into one plan with one brand, we try to be more direct with them versus consultative. They want a consultative agent 10 to 1 more than a direct agent. Now, our last slide gets into what do I believe makes for a good agent. Now, all these bars that you see here, these are all things that seniors will tell us. Now, this is why I know Agent Justin's good, because he does this, he does this, he does that. We said, look, there are a lot of reasons why your agent might be really good, but we're only going to let you tell us your top 3. So this whole list here, you can only mark 3, the 3 most important things. Well, let's look at what the top 5 are. This is everything that we talked about earlier. Look at number 4. Presents me with a wide variety of plan options. This is that consultative agent. I can talk about Plan G and Plan N and Mutual of Omaha and Physicians Mutual and all these med sub-brands and all of these MA options, PPO and HMO. Right? Consultative agent. What do we see number 1? Well, this was that pillar of proficiency number 1. Remember? Doctors and network every single time. We spend the time to make sure, Mrs. Jones, I just want to make sure you're still seeing Dr. Smith as your PCP. Now, I noticed you had a new medication this year added. Did you see a cardiologist for that? It looks like this medication is actually prescribed 96% of the time by a cardiologist. Oh, you did see a cardiologist. Who's that cardiologist? Let's make sure that he's also in network. Pillar of proficiency number 1. Number 5, pillar of proficiency number 2, go over your medications every year. And remember, even if Mrs. Jones is on the same 2 or 3 generic medications she's been on for the last 2 or 3 years, still go through it. There is a chance that we're going to see more disruption in Part D design this year than we have in the past because of the Inflation Reduction Act. And get ready for 2025. Some disruption this year, but more in 2 years. In 2025, there's going to be a new $2,000 max out of pocket on drug, not medical, on drug. Get yourself and your customers into that habit of paying close attention these next 2 years. There's going to be more disruption in Part B than we have seen over the course of the previous 10. What else we see? Explains the details of how different benefits work. You know what that sounds like to me? Explaining all the details of how all those supplemental benefits work in a flex card. Remember, pillar of proficiency number 3, the biggest issue happening in MA right now. I don't know why this flex card won't work at this grocery store. I don't understand it. It says it's got a $2,000 allowance, but I can only use $500 at the dentist's office. There used to be a time where we had to really understand doctor networks. Now we have to understand retail networks on those flex cards. If we don't, we're going to hear about it. Number 3, point out the limitations of different health insurance options. This gets into explaining what medical management is and just being open with folks. Yes, Medicare Advantage means that there's going to be networks. There's going to be medical management. There will be algorithms that you have to follow for your care, but those algorithms are based off of what the scientific literature says is going to lead you to have the most efficient and effective care. You might not have that. You don't have that in MedSup. Not everybody is perfect for Medicare Advantage. Some folks aren't perfect for MedSup. When we explain the pros and cons of everything, we do the best job of being that consultative agent for Mrs. Jones. And we increase the likelihood that Mrs. Jones doesn't call us up and ask us to spend our time switching her. Folks, that's a lot to go through here. As we started off with, we do believe it is going to be a hot AEP. Again, that bond between consumer and carrier, it's never been weaker before in Medicare Advantage, and it's as weak as it has been in MedSup. Glass half empty, glass half full. Glass half empty, we should spend more time hand-holding our current customers, right? They're more frustrated now than they've been before. Glass half full, there are a lot of seniors out there that want the expertise and guidance that only you can provide them. I want to thank you all so much. I hope this has been beneficial. I hope you go out and you have a wonderful AEP. Thank you for allowing me to be part of this session today.
And thank you, George, for taking the time out of your day to present this information. I got a lot of great info out of this, and for all of our agents who are on here that joined us for this call today, the reoccurring theme here is opportunity, right? So it sounds like there's a ton of opportunity going into this AEP. If any of you have any questions, or if you want to work on your growth strategies with us here at Premier Marketing, give us a call. Our marketers are waiting. George, thanks again. Very invaluable information. This was fantastic, and hope to talk to you guys again soon. Thank you. Have a great day.
Good luck, everybody. Thank you all so much.